Not all relationships are created equal. Some only become possible because another one was ruined and someone had to start all over again. I think that's how I can classify Renee and myself. And even then, I wasn't sure if things were going to make it. But before I begin, I guess I should say that the We Are the Music Makers channel tells stories like mine several times a week. They like stories of relationships that made it through hard times and came out on the other side. And I appreciate that they're sharing my story. If you like this story, they have others, and they told me that a like and subscribe would be helpful. Yeah, I know. Same begging for attention as all the other sites, but we're all trying to make it on YouTube. If you show them some love, they'll keep sharing stories like mine. My name is Gary, and I'm 34. Renee is 29. I'm a bus driver with a local tour company. Sometimes I have longer trips, but I'm mostly back the same day. Renee worked at a diner at one of the malls. Sometimes I would take customers to the live music dinner show next to the mall, and I'd need a place to grab a bite. One day, rather than going into the mall for a carton of General Tso's chicken, I hurried across the 7-lane highway and walked into the little diner. Something about it said comfort food, and that was enough. Maybe it was the neon sign that said Saturn Diner that flashed and the eye had burned out. Maybe it was the specials board on the sidewalk. Maybe it was that the parking lot wasn't crowded at 3 p.m., meaning I could get seated quickly. The hostess smiled at me as I walked in. "You survived crossing Capitol Parkway," she commented, her voice filled with laughter. It was an appreciative laughter, not judgmental. My face probably turned red. "I'm driving that bus in the mall lot." I pointed back towards my bus. "You're a CDL driver," she remarked, her eyes lighting up. I thought it was an odd reaction, but I didn't complain. She glanced back at the bus. "B-class, and you have passenger endorsement." "You know your stuff," I responded. "That's what I've got. You know the system." Her smile dampened, only for a moment, but then she pulled a menu and led me to a small booth. "Because you're a driver, and you were a live-action game of Frogger for a few minutes, I'm going to set you up with a free starter." She put the menu in front of me. "I'll be back in a minute." I looked around the place. It felt like the place didn't know what decade it wanted to be. It had the 1950s Wurlitzer jukebox in the corner, records and everything. The walls were painted pink like it was the 1960s. The chairs looked like they had been in a McDonald's from the 1980s, and the posters on the wall featured singers from every era. Buddy Holly, George Michael, even Fred Durst. It was a mashup, but it had its charm. When she came back, I told her I'd have the poutine. We got to chatting. She knew a little bit about the trucking scene. She had connections with the truckers in the area, but she didn't specify. It had been 3 years since she last really connected with them. Her eyes dropped, and I had a feeling that she had been disappointed. But then she expressed interest in learning about the big coach buses. A few minutes later, she brought out the poutine and a glass of Coke Zero. She asked if I had picked an entree, and I decided on the chicken parm special. Her eyes sparkled. "That's my favorite, too." She kept coming back to check on me, filling up my half-empty Coke glass and asking me a question or two about my bus. It was an international, and it seated 43. Had a luggage compartment in the bottom and a bathroom in the back. She expressed interest in seeing it. As a lark, I offered to let her check it out. To my surprise, she accepted. She was off in an hour, and she said she'd drive over and knock on the entry door. When I was done, she handed me a receipt with a knowing smile, her eyes going from my own down to the check itself. I looked at it. There was a phone number. I nodded and smiled a little, saying thanks, while I pulled out the cash and folded the receipt into her wallet. "See you when I get off," she said with a hopeful tone in her voice. I nodded. Her smile reeked of high school graduation photo, but the sparkle in her eyes seemed to say that she really meant it. I left the restaurant and scurried my way back across Capitol Parkway. My brain was telling me that she was probably watching as I hurried, stopped, waited, and moved back. Cars honking and passengers yelling at me. I hoped at least she was getting a chuckle out of it. A little more than an hour later, I was doom-scrolling on Facebook, watching videos of gruesome football tackles and drunk people doing stunts they'd cringe at if they were sober. I nearly jumped out of my seat when I heard a knock at the passenger door. I looked around, and it was that cute waitress from the diner. I opened the door and she climbed on. "You came," I said. "I have a thing for diesel," she remarked. I laughed. I filled up the bus before I took off. There might be a whiff of diesel on my hands. Her smile remained. "There is. That's what brought me over." She laughed. It was natural, like she hoped I liked her joke as much as she did. I put my phone away, and we sat in the front couple of seats. We talked about our lives. We agreed that dating apps were the worst. I had a hard time meeting women with my irregular schedule. She was a waitress because she had to get a job when her relationship with a trucker blew up. He had taken care of her, but she kind of hinted that maybe it was her fault. I looked out the window behind her. I guess we all have mistakes in our past. She looked down. I kind of wish I had told him, I want to be the ride-around girlfriend. If I had been with him in the cab every day, maybe I wouldn't have felt isolated. Then she sighed. And I wouldn't have listened to Colleen, the divorced friend. She looked at me. I thought for a while, was she the provider of bad relationship advice? Renee snorted, looking irritated, but then softened when she looked at me. Yeah, that's about right. She started wringing her hands. I hope I'm not being a pest. I laughed a little. Good company is always better than doom scrolling. She half smiled, then grimaced. High praise. I grimaced a little back. The only thing I can think to do is just ask you out. Her eyes moved up to me. Seriously, like you want to go out on a date? Did you give me your number to be restaurant friends, or am I misreading the room? Her smile returned, as big as before. No, not at all. She looked the bus up and down. I think I missed the rumble of the engine and the hissing of the air brakes. But you're great, too. High praise, I quoted back at her. Shut up. You're a CDL driver. You must have some inkling of the charm. There was accusation, but there wasn't any venom in it. I nodded. Yeah, I guess I do. She sat up, leaning towards me from the seat across the walkway. So are you serious? About the date? Yeah, sure. You like rear-wheel commercial vehicles. I like chicken parm. That's a sign, right? Okay, seriously, she remarked, her look turning annoyed. Fine, I'd like to go out with you. You're adventurous, you're funny, and you know the life of a CDL driver, so you won't get annoyed if I don't text or call at a specific time. She leaned back and smiled. All right, that's better, but don't say restaurant or a movie. I work at a restaurant and movie theaters are stupid. Fine, I thought for a minute. How about bowling? We can laugh about the ugly shoes, and you can laugh at me when I get gutter balls. She thought for a minute. I probably won't laugh since I haven't bowled in a decade, but fine. But I want quarters to play any arcade or pinball machines. Fine. I want food of some sort, though, I responded. Ugh, fine. We can hit a drive-in. That doesn't count as a restaurant because you sit in your car. Deal. My next day off was Monday. Weekends were swamped. I usually worked them because the hours were good and the tips were better. Renee texted me about this cosmic bowling alley. Black lights would make the bowling balls glow. Pins were painted yellow for an eerie fluorescence, and it had a Street Fighter II arcade cabinet. That sounded weird, but I didn't say no. This whole thing was weird. We met at the bowling alley. We bowled 2 rounds and had 31 gutter balls combined. She had 2 strikes to my 1, so she demanded to be declared the winner. I pointed out that I technically won both rounds. She said either she was the winner or I could eat Kraft mac and cheese at home. I told her I had leftover pulled pork at home. Say I won. She demanded. Fine, you won, I allowed. Good, I'll pay for the drive-in, since you generously conceded defeat. I didn't, but I let it go. If she was willing to pay for chili fries and a milkshake, I wouldn't complain. We drove over to the drive-in. She said she wanted to split a large cheese fries, no chili. I agreed. I got a cheeseburger. She got a salad. A drive-in salad? I asked. Shut up. I'm watching my figure. With cheese fries, I fired back. Shut up, she said. I have a question. How can I answer if you want me to shut up? It's selective, she explained. You shut up about my salad, but keep talking about things I like. So you won't like your salad? Maybe not, but I'm still going to eat it. I shrugged. I'm not going to share my burger unless you ask. I won't, she responded. Good. Anyway, do you know where you're driving over the course of the week? I told her. Day trip to a national park. Trip to drop off teenagers at some archaeological retreat. Group trip to a presidential museum for a president from the 1800s. Which president? She asked. William McKinley? I admitted. The mountain guy? More or less, I responded. She thought for a bit. Any chance I could go to that? The McKinley place? I asked. Yeah. Maybe, she asked. I have to check with the bus company. If there's 40 or more people on the bus, no. But if there's less, then you can ride along in the passenger seat closest to the door. She thought, that's a weird rule. I shrugged. It's so that you won't be sitting with the paid passengers. It's a liability thing. Oh, she said. But if there is room, would you want me to go? Better than doom scrolling. Anything is better than doom scrolling. Try again, she demanded. Fine. Driving is lonely, and if you want to go, then it'll be a welcome change. You're way better than the loneliness. She rolled her eyes. Okay, but you need to work on better compliments. The food came to the window. She handed me a 20. I pushed it out the window, along with $5 more. That waitress needed a tip. Fine, she accepted. I handed her the salad and put the cheese fries between us. 1 minute later, I could feel her eyeing my burger. I took a bite. Her eyes were locked on me. Well, she said. Well, what? She eyed my burger. I made a rule. You ordered a salad. I told you you have to ask if you want some of my burger. She huffed. I paid for it. I'm not withholding, just setting up boundaries. She huffed again. Fine. Can I have a bite of your burger? Sure, I said, handing it to her. She took 4 bites and handed me a quarter of a burger back. It looked better than the salad, she said. I'm not surprised. I took the last bite. You can have the cheese fries, she said. Yes, but you'll resent me if I eat cheese fries while you're eating salad. You're probably right, she admitted. I grabbed a fork, shoveled about a third of the fries into my burger box. These are mine. She immediately reached over and pulled one of the cheese fries from my box. Then she looked at me. Yours taste better. There was a weird smile on her face. You're feisty, I remarked. I prefer the word spirited, she retorted. Feisty. We finished our food, which mostly meant she ignored her salad, and then ate all the fries. When she realized I had eaten almost nothing, she said, we could go back and watch a movie at my apartment. I'll microwave some popcorn. I thought you didn't want to see a movie. I said the movie theater, she explained. So a smaller screen and a limited selection, I asked. Do you want to go or not? Fine. We went back, watched Batman Forever, and commented on how Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones chewed all the scenery until she fell asleep on the couch. I turned off her TV, covered her in a blanket, and quietly left. The next morning, while I was pumping diesel and checking the bus bathroom fluid when I got a text from Renee. You didn't have to leave. I texted back. We hadn't discussed anything. I didn't know the ground rules. There was a pause for a few minutes. Fair enough. Then a few minutes later. Did you think about staying? I thought about how to answer. I didn't want to make things weird. You were asleep. Waking you up might have been weird. She texted back as I was starting the bus. If I hadn't fallen asleep, would you have stayed? Maybe. But it's 9 in the morning and I'm at work. So it's a hypothetical question and it has nothing to do with you. Another pause. Air pressure building. What if I want to make it about me? I guess that will happen on our next date. That means you want another date. Yeah, you're willingly dating a bus driver. Women like that are rare. I texted back before I took off. When I got to the pickup place, a hotel with a name that sounds like the breed of a very expensive dog, I checked my phone. The next said, maybe, but I burned bridges in the truckers community. I'm radioactive. Before the people got on, I texted back. Must be a story. Yeah. Acted like an idiot. Not ready to tell it, though. Fine. Be nice to me, though. I'm always nice to you, she responded. Not when you steal my fries. I can make it up to you. Hot buttered popcorn was nice. I responded. Yes, came the text. But we're cool, right? Yeah, Renee. We're cool. People were getting on. I'll text you when I drop the passengers off at the park. Just before I took off, a text came back. You'd better. There was a heart next to it. On Wednesday, I went to my general manager, asked about bringing a friend to the McKinley Museum. He stared at me. Unusual, but permissible. Let me check the reservation. He pulls up the manifest. 33 guests. He looks up at me. If they decide to add more, we might have to remove her from the ride, but it'll probably be fine. He reminded me that my guests should leave the paid customers to themselves unless addressed. I was to get a reserved sign for one of the seats in the first row, and I was responsible for my guests' needs. I agreed to the whole deal. That evening, I texted Renee. Can we talk about you riding on the bus with me tomorrow? Sure, she texted back. Come on by? 8 p.m. good? I'll have snacks. When I arrived at her apartment, it wasn't so much snacks as it was an 8-course meal, an 8-course meal of freezer food. But still, Hot Pockets, pizza rolls, ravioli, even turnovers from the grocery store, apple and cherry. There were even 5 different sodas, including RC Cola. Where do you even get RC in this town, Renee? Shut up. I have mad snack skills. Clearly, she loaded a plate with some of everything. I asked if she's going to have some. She said she wasn't hungry. But we sat down on the couch, and she began eating the food on my plate. I eyeballed her. I told you food tastes better when it's on your plate, she protested. That is a weird compliment, Renee. You wouldn't have it any other way. I doubt it, I remarked. You'll change your mind. She picked up the Hot Pocket, started eating it. There was something you wanted to talk about? Oh, right, you've got tentative clearance to ride along to the McKinley Museum. Her eyes lit up, and then she stared at me seriously. Tentatively. It means unless the situation changes. I know what the word means, Gary. She picked up the apple turnover. I should just have 2 plates, I remarked. I'd just eat off both of them, she admitted. They'd both taste better than each other. That's not how better works, I complained. Shut up. Now what do you mean by tentatively for our trip? I shrugged. If 5 or 6 more people get added to the trip, you'd be bumped. How often does that happen? She asked. Basically never, I answered. Never? She asked. Almost? Almost never, or basically never. I shrugged. Same difference. She grabbed my wrist. If I showed up, what odds would you give that I'd be bumped? I thought about numbers. 2% chance. She looked at me, started picking up the pizza rolls. Should I come? I stared at her. Do you not want to? She thought for a minute. I want insurance. What does that mean? If I get bumped, I want something of equal value from you, I thought. If you're bumped, I'll take you out for ramen on Saturday. Her eyes lit up. Tonkotsu? I nodded. Can we have sake? If we don't go to the museum? Sure. She looked at my plate. It was empty. Did you like the food? I glanced at her. I didn't get any of it, Renee. You ate it all. She stared. You distracted me. It was on your plate. It's better that way. I might go hungry. I'm sorry. She said, hugging my neck. You owe me something, I said. What? What happened with the truckers? She looked at me, lowered her eyes. I didn't want to tell you yet. She leaned back, sighing. She was silent for a minute. Maybe she was hoping I release her from telling me, but needed to know. Finally, she took a deep breath. So my ex was a really good guy, over the road, had a Peterbilt. Mostly 3-day runs. We were pretty serious, but I started getting nervous. My friend Colleen, 40 years old and twice divorced, told me I should be testing him, seeing if he'd fight for me. I rolled my eyes. She saw it. Shut up. I'm trying to be serious. I didn't say anything. I know it sounds stupid, but women toss it around like it's supposed to mean something. I just nodded, so I began giving him the silent treatment when he was driving. I started fights on purpose when he was home. It completely blindsided him. After a couple of weeks, he started pulling back. Colleen told me he was countering my games with his own. I know I was making it worse. Don't roll your eyes again. But I didn't know what to do, so I made things worse and worse for him until one day, he came back to the apartment, took his stuff, left, and never came back. I had 100 things I wanted to say. I wanted to tell her that, of course, that's what happened. Or that men don't want to play games, they want peace. Or that she ran him off. But she was sad. She had regrets, so all I said was, ouch. She looked at me. Yeah. One of the last things he told me was that he would have gladly fought to protect me from anyone else. But the moment he had to start fighting me directly, that's when it started to be ruined. When he left, I stalked his social media, tried to catch him at his favorite fueling stations, even tried to talk to his mother and some of the other women he knew. She shook her head. I lowered my eyes. I even accused him of cheating on me with a woman I already knew was a lesbian. I could feel her eyes on me. You have thoughts. Nothing productive, I responded. She stared at me for a long time. Honest, she said. Thank you for not laying in on me. She sighed. I want to think that I learned from my mistakes. She took my hand. I don't want to do to you what I did to him. I burned all the bridges. Did you ever see the flannel tossing girlfriend video? I thought back. Heard of it, never watched. She sighed. You're going to, I'm sure. I took all his favorite shirts at one point and tossed them off the balcony 3 hours before I knew he'd be home. I think that's what broke everything. He even told me about the proposal he had been planning, but we were done. She grabbed my hand. All I have is the receipt from when he bought the ring. I sat and thought while she stared at me. I hope you have learned your lesson. I hope you know that what you did didn't strengthen his resolve. It drove him away. She gripped my hand harder. I know, she whispered. I don't want to do that again. Go through that again. She sighed. I want to make it. Good, was all I said. We sat together on the couch, holding each other, just understanding the need to feel accepted. On Wednesday at 10 in the morning, I was adding diesel to the bus, and I saw Renee walking over to me. She had parked in the guest lot, which was right, but now she was in the bus yard, and that was out of bounds. I cut the fuel pump and walked over, looking around to see if the yard marshal was around. Get on the bus. I'll be on in a few minutes. Don't ask questions. I'll explain when I get on. She looked at me but nodded and hopped on the bus. A minute later, I got a call while I was still pumping. Do you know that civilian who walked into the bus yard? It was the marshal. He must have caught her on camera. Yeah, I had told her to park in the visitor's lot, but she walked over here rather than into the office like I expected. I paused. She's on the bus. It won't happen again. Good, the marshal said. Bus yard is for badged employees only. Then he hung up. I finished pumping, checked the lavatory fluid, and then hopped on. Renee was waiting for me, nervous. Sorry about that, yard rules. Employees only over here. I thought you'd go into the office building. Didn't expect you to see me and come over. She looked out towards the main offices. Are you in trouble? I shook my head. No. Just in the future, just go into the offices, and I promise I'll be looking for you. I leaned over, and we embraced. That gave her some ease. A few minutes later, we were in the inspection garage, and I suggested she step into the break room. She nodded, and once I got the bus cleared for departure, I went in and found her chatting with Lisa, the only woman driver. They were talking about international engines versus Volvo. Lisa saw me and smiled. Renee is quite the little expert on diesel stuff. Is she with you? I nodded. Lisa recognized my urgency, gave Renee this kiss goodbye as if they were old friends, and a minute later we were taking off. I told Renee we were picking up at an office for a historical outing for some publishing company. William McKinley was low-key icon of a certain group of people. I had looked it up, but I didn't want to read the lengthy articles. All I knew was that the owner of the organization was on board, and I had to be on my best behavior. I explained that conversation had to be at a minimum while I drove, and that when they got on the bus, she was to say she was shadowing me. She laughed at that. To Renee's credit, she was perfectly well behaved. When we dropped the passengers off at the front driveway, I pulled around to the far side of the lot. We had 3 hours to kill. So is Mount McKinley around here? She asked. I laughed. She was totally serious. I dried up. Oh well, Mount McKinley is in Alaska. Oh, I didn't know that. I nodded. I think the museum has a gift shop. You want to go? She considered. Sure. We walked to the front. She was walking close, like almost shoulder to shoulder. When we got around to the front, there was the main museum, which looked like the entry to a high school, and the monument, which was the tomb of McKinley, his wife Ida, and their 2 daughters. Wait, there's a planetarium here? I looked over, I guess. At a presidential museum? There was a dinosaur on a side wall. We looked at it, then she turned to me. This place is sad. I agree. We went into the gift shop. It had books about nothing. Picture books about the area, T-shirts that barely even mentioned the president, decorations with birds on them. McKinley seemed like an afterthought. We went back outside and looked at the bigger monument. Do you want to go in, I asked. Not really, she said. The museum should have been the cool part, but it feels like the kind of place middle school kids would be bored with in 15 minutes. Maybe nerds in 30. I laughed a little. Then she asked, is there somewhere to get something to eat? I looked at my phone. There's a barbecue place nearby and a McDonald's close. She looked at me. Barbecue might be nice. I decided to be weird about it. Can it be a date? What? She asked. I want it to be a date. Aren't we on a date? She asked. I looked back at the sad old building. Do you want to say the date was at an old museum that clearly doesn't care? She looked back. It's still a presidential museum. That sounds cool. Fine. The barbecue can be part of the date. Fine. But only if I go as your girlfriend. She shoots back. Okay, but that means you have to hold my hand. Fine. She took my hand and I walked us towards the barbecue place. That escalated quickly. I'm 34, I said. I'm done playing games. I can be romantic and fun, but I don't want to wonder what we are. I don't do drama. I heard a sigh. I could see her looking out over the lake on our left. Yeah, I wish I had learned that before I blew the last one up. Then she looked back at me. I'm over the drama. Let's just be what we need to be and enjoy this new situation. We sat down at the barbecue place. It's next to an ice cream restaurant. We sit down, look at the menu. It's sad, too. She looked up at me. I want the most expensive thing on the menu. What's that? Meat and potato. It's a potato stuffed with meat. How much is it? I asked. $9. You're bankrupting me, Renee. She looked at me. I smiled. Since I'm going to be homeless, I'll have that too. She laughed and took my hand on the table. The waitress came to the table. Drinks are variations on Coke. She asked for water. I ordered a Coke Zero. We say we're ready to order. We both asked the meat and potato. The waitress looked at us. You married? She laughed. Not yet, I laughed too. It doesn't matter if she means it. Maybe we'll stop by the courthouse and get the chore done today. The girl stared at us. I put a hand up. We just started dating like 15 minutes ago. We're in the happy glow phase. She looked us over. You look like you've been together for years. That's because neither of us got the good timeline. I said, I'm a bus driver and she has a past that doesn't deserve to be mentioned. We skipped the drama because drama sucks. The girl stared at me. Can you just skip the drama? I shrugged. If both people agree to, then yeah. She looked at me. What happens then? It means both people have to be mature enough to care about the other person more than themselves. You're giving up the right to demand, to control, and to posture. You look at that guy and say, I'm going to make him happy, and I know he'll do that for me. She stared at me. That's deep. Yeah, but it lets you skip the doubt and fear. She put her pad in her apron. The girl walked away. Renee looked at me. I get the feeling that if I weren't there, she would have offered you her number. I looked back at her. Why would I want that? I have a girlfriend. She laughed. But she's younger than me. She's a Zoomer and she probably listens to BTS. I can't live life with someone who thinks Korean boy bands are cool. I was a little kid when the original boy bands were around, and they were awful. She laughed some more. Well, I'm a millennial. I can make your life miserable. You could, but is it worth the trouble? We can use our energy being happy or being miserable. I know I look like I'm low energy, but I'm willing to cross a 7-lane highway for a diner. She squeezed my hand. I know, and I don't want to be miserable. I want to be happy with you. Life went on for 6 weeks. She told me about some friend she saw on Facebook and was chatting with Colleen. That sounded vaguely familiar and ominous. I remembered something about bad relationship advice. We hung out the next day at her place, and she groused at about my clothes. You're still wearing your work outfit, she complained. I came straight from work. I would have had to go home and change. That would have taken an extra half hour. She had nothing to say to that. We were drinking soda, and she complained again. You're drinking too loud. I just stood up, put my cup in the sink, and walked back. The entire time, she went back and forth between comfortably pleasant and hypercritical. Whenever she criticizes something, I stopped whatever it is. Finally, an hour later, she growled, literally growled at me. Why do you keep cutting me off? I'm trying to get under your skin. That's when I stopped and looked at her. Why would you do that? Don't you remember when I said I don't do drama? That means you're not trying. You don't care enough about me to handle the drama. Maybe we're not compatible. She said in a rush, clearly huffing. I think you should leave. I sat quietly for a minute. Maybe you're right. I don't do drama. If you want drama, maybe I should go. I stood up, I got my shoes, and started to put one on. Wait, she cried out. I looked at her. How can we know if we're right for each other without drama, without tension? I sighed. Tension comes naturally. Issues pop up because life isn't perfect. If you're willing to manufacture issues now, when things are supposed to be good, doesn't that just mean you'll treasure the drama more than the good times? She looked at me, then down at the floor, then she sighed. Tension happens even when we don't create it. She slumped on the couch. Yeah, maybe that should be obvious. Does this have something to do with this old friend of yours, Colleen? Her eyes widened. She realized. She didn't want to admit it, but she nodded. Now I have to be diplomatic. I don't want you talking about our relationship with her. It sounds like she's stirring the pot. What's her relationship status? I could see she was shocked. I was setting a boundary, planting a flag that shouldn't be crossed. There was silence for a long time. She's on husband number 3. Long pause. It's not going very well. I let that sink in. I'm not going to tell you that you can't be friends with her, but she's dribbling poison into this relationship. Her advice is bad, and she should feel bad for thinking she should be doling out her pearls of wisdom. I watched as she looked down. I could see the wheels moving in her head. That makes sense. She looked up at me. Okay, Gary. I won't listen to her when it comes to our relationship. I stood there. Do you still want me to leave? She took my arm and shook her head. No, please don't go. I'm hoping this is a blip, a glitch in the system that I could forget about. I was wrong. 3 months passed, and things have been really good. I'd sit at her diner sometimes, or we'd hang out at each other's apartments. Leaving stuff because it's easier than carrying things. I got a promotion to lead driver. There was a potential opening for a dispatcher in a few months. That would mean regular hours, no longer behind the wheel, managerial, no longer hourly work. I thought that things were straightening out, but then with no warning, I got a text from Renee. I think we should take a break. I'm not liking the direction things are going. That struck me like lightning. I stared at the phone for a minute. Just yesterday, she was talking about the future. Maybe going on a vacation, maybe even visiting her parents. This felt off. But I texted her back. If a break is what you want, maybe we should let things go for a month. Then we can talk and reevaluate. What? She texted back. Don't you care about me? I care about you enough to believe you when you say what you want. If you want a break, then I'm okay with it. There was silence for a long time. I had a feeling this was being influenced. Someone was in her ear telling her to do this, to see the reaction. I didn't like it. Then an hour later, another text came through. Fine, If I'm not important to you, then let's be quiet for a month. You'll regret this. She didn't know that I already am regretting this. I was losing my girlfriend because she was baiting me. A day passed. Silence. 2 days. Finally, on the third day, I got a text from her. This is so stupid. You don't care about me. I remained silent. Passive-aggressive whining is drama that I could leave alone. Each day for the rest of the week, there was one comment, a low-energy complaint, or maybe an insult. It was static to me, the same as silence. When the seventh day hit, she went silent again. Maybe that was good. Maybe not. I was hitting the wall. I missed her, but I reminded myself that I missed something that might no longer be there. Maybe the bridge was burned. The silence was painful, but by day 9, I realized that it was really only as painful as the loneliness that was my life before Renee came over and hung out in my bus. I didn't like it, but I began to decompress. It wasn't total, because I wasn't not sure everything really was over, but I can at least live with myself. Like the time my bus was clipped by a Miata. Everyone riding felt it, of course, and I had to pull over and assess the damage, but the bus had basically cosmetic damage and the Miata was totaled. So far, the pain really was superficial. On day 14, there was a call. Renee, something real. It mean 5 that talking needs to happen. I answered the phone. She's crying. She'd been spiraling without me. She was having panic attacks because she couldn't be with me. She couldn't wait 2 more weeks. Could she please come over, I thought about. What was the worst that could happen? Break up. Might as well tear the Band-Aid off. I agree, and an hour later, she showed up to my house with my favorite chips and a CD of my favorite band. Where do you even buy CDs anymore? She gave me the CD and came into my kitchen, where poured the chips into a bowl and pulled out 2 sodas. She sat down close, but she was afraid to touch. She knew the separation was there, but I wondered if she knew why. I cut Colleen off. She started, "She's the one who told me I should demand a break, because that would make you panic." She opened her soda. I knew she was wrong. I knew. And I knew it wouldn't work on you, but I did it anyway. I think I wanted to feel in control. But you control yourself. I should have respected that. I decided to deal with a real immediate problem. You cut Colleen off? She looked up at me. Yeah, this morning. Blocked her calls, texts, Insta, everything we were on. She just walked out on her husband and I just realized she doesn't know anything. I should be giving her advice. I chuckled a little, allowed a small smile. That might actually help her. She nodded. Maybe I'd make a better friend with relationship advice than a girlfriend. There was a long silence. Can we, be together again? I thought about that for a long time. I had been thinking of demanding that she ask to end the break. But wasn't that she was doing right now? I decided to test the waters. The past 2 weeks have really sucked. It's been lonely. She reached out to me. Yeah, I've been miserable. Colleen was telling me that you were raising the stakes or trying to keep control. She let out a long, ragged sigh. That's exactly what she said about my ex, the one who was on the verge of proposing. Finally, I had to admit to myself that you were just rejecting the drama. My house of cards came crashing down, and now I'm terrified that wrecked a second great relationship with my drama. I cracked open my soda, chugged half of it. Then I looked over at her and she was staring at me nervously, hopefully painfully. Please, she said. As if all the realization was built into that one word, I took a deep breath. Okay, Renee, I need this to be it though. If Colleen is out of the picture, then I guess we can start building again. She smiled. I can see it now. Just talk to you if something is wrong. Don't assume the worst. I know you're not the worst. High praise. Shut up and let me make things right, she retorted. I grinned little. That felt like old times. I know that there will be stress, moments of doubt, but I'm best when you make me happy, and that should be the measurement of whether you're trying, because I am happier when you're trying. She leaned into me. Let me show you that I'll make you happy too. I held my can of soda up. Here's to not giving up on each other. We toasted and then things began to feel right again.